Before we get started with today's episode, in case you're not on my mailing list, well, I have landed after 3 years in the liminal phase and a year's worth of conversations for the Courageous Pivot podcast. I have finally braved the calling of my heart and gone all in, full out in the creation of my art. I want to invite you to have a look. It's at meghantelpner.com/art. And there you will find a gallery of the tapestry weavings I've been working on for the last year. There are still a few available if you need a little warmth and color and vibrancy and joy on the walls of your home or office or school or wherever you have some wall space. Again, please go over to meghantelpner.com/art and check out the results of my courageous pivot. Now, let's get started with today's episode. Hello, and welcome once again to the Courageous Pivot podcast. I'm your host, Meghan Telpner, and the stories keep on flowing. I had a short list drawn up when I first envisioned this podcast, and the person who is on today's episode was on that short list because of the beautiful and dramatic pivot, multiple ones actually, that she made in her life. Before I go any further, I do want to please ask and remind you to head over to courageouspivot.com to subscribe so you will get each episode delivered to your inbox, and of course follow along and subscribe wherever you like to listen. But courageouspivot.com is the place to go. Today's guest is Abigail Keeso. Abigail and I, as you've gathered, everyone here is a friend of mine because that's who I've been most interested in being able to have these longer conversations with. But Abigail and I first met when she joined the Culinary Nutrition Expert Program. She was the very first scholarship student. I think she won the scholarship. I can't remember her application. And she went on to do the program full on and built a wildly successful business. She's got a great story to tell. Her background is that Abigail Keeso is a registered nurse turned tech founder and growth leader. She co-founded That Clean Life, a nutrition planning platform for health and wellness practitioners, which was later acquired by Practice Better, where she led growth. After more than a decade of building what many would define as success, Abigail stepped into a more personal pivot, one that challenged her identity, ambition, and definition of growth. Today, she writes and speaks about the emotional reality of exits, the tension between scale and soul, and the courage it takes to choose a different path. She lives in rural Ontario with her family, where they've spent the past year growing their own food and building a life that feels honest, grounded, and fully their own. From that bio, I am quite certain you can see and feel why I was so excited to speak to her. We have many parallels, mostly in the aftermath of when we both left in different ways our respective companies. This was a joyful, deep, vulnerable conversation, and I suspect you will enjoy it very much. So without further ado, meet my friend Abigail. Abigail Keeso, welcome to the Courageous Pivot podcast. I am thrilled to have you joining at long last.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I feel like this has been a long time coming.
Yeah, I pestered you from the get-go because you were on my first short list of people I wanted to chat with because you've done it. I'll first just mention you're not wearing black today.
I'm not. You are.
Well, black and white. I have pink shoes on. But it's something I noticed that you, and we're going to get into more substance, but you went through, I don't know if you still are, and this is like an anomaly today, but every time I've seen you, you're in all black. But when I first met you, you weren't.
Yeah, I changed my wardrobe. I don't even know what year. I finally got rid of everything that was of any color whatsoever. My whole closet was black, like from my underwear to my socks, everything. And it just made life a bit easier. But now that we moved to the country, it doesn't feel right out here. Like it felt right in the city, but it doesn't feel right out here to wear all black.
That's so interesting. I was really curious. I was like, how do I segue into your clothing choices in this conversation? And I clearly have no sense of subtlety. I'm like, let's go straight to this. Do you feel differently out of black?
I do. I do sometimes wear black still. Like I went to drop the kids off at school this morning and I was wearing all black. And it doesn't make me feel any sort of way, but I just feel like I'm wearing more like earth tones and I feel like more a part of the earth since moving out here as well. So yeah, I guess it does make me feel a bit different in a sense, a bit lighter almost.
Yeah, it's interesting because I went through a phase where I wore all black when I was in fashion school and then a lot of the time when I worked in advertising. And it was simple and it looked like fancy, but it now when I wear all black, I can't do it.
Feel,
Energetically, I can't do it.
feel a bit dark.
Yeah, and then I recently learned about, like, how the colors like, the black absorbs all external energy, whereas white can reflect it and be more protective, which is kind of interesting.
I believe that. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
maybe you could have managed the city if you'd worn all white here. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's so much I wanna explore with you. You were, I think, the one and only culinary nutrition expert that came into the program with a scholarship from a brand partner. Which I think is just so fun because then you sold your business for like $10 million or something like that. So I love that you came in on a scholarship. At the time you found me, you were a nurse. Is that right?
Yeah. So I think I did the culinary nutrition expert program in maybe 2016 or 2017, 2016 maybe. And at the time I was working full time as a registered nurse at the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto. And we kind of started that clean life on the side as like more of a passion project. We started it in 2014 as just ebooks. And then 2015, we launched the app. And then in 2016, we launched the B2B portion of it.
Okay. I think you did the program earlier. I think it was 2014.
Oh, was it?
I think it was pretty like you were still just it was still just a blog.
Oh,
Like
really?
Clean
Okay.
Life was
Maybe I
just a
had my years.
blog.
Yeah.
Not just a. It was beautiful. Did you start it with your husband?
I did. Yep. So I recruited him since day one. I had an idea to put together like a meal plan with recipes and a grocery list and run a challenge because all the nurses I were working with, we were working day shifts and night shifts. So we either worked 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. or 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. And it was just exhausting. It was the hardest days of my life, just feeling run down and gross all the time from being up all night. And so I realized like I was going to have to eat healthier if I was going to power through my shifts. And I kind of got more into the nutrition side at that point. And I told my husband, Christopher, about this idea I had. And he was like, if you're going to make an ebook, like we need to make it beautiful. And he helped me design it and make it look real nice. And we took professional photos of all the food. And we launched it as just a challenge where you just had to put your email in and you got an ebook. And that went so well our very first year of selling PDF ebooks that we decided to turn it into a web app in 2015. And then that we spent that first year just serving consumers. So like individuals who wanted to eat healthy for themselves or with their families. And then we had so many health and wellness professionals coming to us that first year saying, this is great. Like I need to use this with my clients. And it was something we had never really thought of, but it made sense. And it was really special to me as a healthcare professional. I was like, this is so cool. I get to merge both worlds. And nurses don't traditionally have much training in nutrition, but it was really cool to me that I would get to serve some of the health professionals that I worked with on a daily basis, like dietitians. So then we kind of pivoted and we went B2B. And then we served health and wellness professionals for a few years and consumers. And then we eventually shut down the consumer side of things and just focused strictly on serving health and wellness professionals.
What kind of nurse were you?
I was a pediatric nurse in infectious diseases and general pediatrics. So I was on the, gosh, I can't even remember now, the seventh floor. Yep, seventh floor on sick kids. So we got a mix of just, undiagnosed things. So a lot of the kids came to us before they had a diagnosis and then they'd go off to neuro or transplant or wherever they needed. And then we got a lot of infectious diseases. So we get a lot of like the oncology kiddos who had contracted like chicken pox and had to be in isolation. We were also at the end of my time as a nurse training and getting ready for Ebola, which was
Oh my
terrifying.
goodness. Yeah.
But we would have been the unit to take on those kind of cases as well.
How many years were you in nursing? Were you practicing as a nurse?
4 full-time
Yeah.
and then 2 part-time. And then I went casual, like working 1 shift a month. And then I couldn't keep up. I really wanted to do both, but it got to the point they were introducing so many new technologies and they were just, I couldn't keep up with the new pagers and like the new ways of charting. So I had to
Right.
eventually call it
When
a day.
you were in it, doing the alternating shifts of day and night, were you in your mind being like, I'll get used to this? Or like, how long do I have to do this?
Yeah, good question. I I think I always knew it wasn't a long-term thing for me. I would go in and I would kind of walk in with hundreds of people punching the clock and, looking up to some of the older nurses who are all so incredible. And it's like such an admirable profession because nurses don't get paid that much for what they do. You really have to have a passion for it. And like the career trajectory there is you either work as a staff nurse at the bedside and then you can kind of go up into a leadership position as well. So that was an option for me. But I didn't see myself kind of staying at the bedside for very long with those shifts. It was just too tiring. And I was
Mhm.
young. So after 4 years of doing it, I was pretty toast.
You said you couldn't keep up with both. Was it both the nursing and your growing business with that clean life?
Yeah. So that clean life was really taking off at that time. And I remember like on my breaks going into the break room and answering support emails from customers. And I really did try to do both for a long time. But yeah, the business grew to a point where I just had to make a decision and go all in or, go all in on nursing. And I chose to go all in on that clean life. And I think that was a good decision.
At what point, you have two daughters. Where were you at when your first daughter was born?
So our first daughter was born in 2019. I
Okay.
think the business was at about like 1 million in annual recurring revenue at that point. So we had some traction at that
Yeah.
point. And I'd say like that was like we were in some like heavy growth years. So I remember reaching out to you at that point after we had our first baby. And I don't know what we were thinking. I think we thought we would just like put her in a swing or something in the corner and she would be quiet and we'd like we had no plan for running the business and having a baby. We just thought we would figure it out. And by month 4, I was like, this is intense. I can't do both. We had this business that was exploding. I had a newborn baby who needed a lot of attention. She was a colicky baby as well. So I reached out to you, I remember clearly, and being like, how did you do this? Did you get a nanny? And I'm still so thankful for you walking me through all that.
What did I tell you? Did I tell you that it was horrendous? I wasn't functioning and we got a nanny.
Yeah. I think that was the gist of it. But I remember you saying like your nanny had saved your life.
Yeah. I remember now that you mentioned, I do remember this because I don't think I felt guilt bringing in a nanny. I just felt disappointed in myself that I wasn't able to function. And I wasn't, our baby he didn't have long naps. Like he napped for 20 minutes at a stretch. And then at nighttime, he got up, like not for, like every 3 or 4 hours, but I wouldn't fall asleep between feeding. So that was my biggest challenge. But then I had friends, my girlfriend Joy, she had a baby that they did just put in a swing and put in a playpen and carried on and functions. I'm like, well, why can't I do
I
this? But
know.
I
It's
couldn't.
totally different experiences. Like
Yeah.
it's so hard. I remember we lived in the East End at that time and we'd walk to Withrow Park and we'd see moms sitting on their blankets with their babies just lying on a blanket. And Chris would be like, that baby's like a potato. Why didn't we get a potato baby?
Yes. Yes.
We just had this baby that just cried all the time and she needed so much from us. And yeah, we definitely needed help. And
Yeah.
to your point about like being disappointed, I was so grateful to be in a position to get the help because we didn't
Yeah.
have family close by or anybody it was just the two of us in the city. Nobody could come help. And I don't regret that for a second. I feel really lucky to have had that resource. And I'm really proud of what we were able to accomplish during that like special moment in time
Yeah.
because like as I learned later on, those moments in time pass. Like you're not going to ride that wave forever. So we made the right choice in getting help when we did.
Yes, absolutely. I remember too, this just came to me because I'd met at a birthday party this other mom. And it's funny when you're in that stage because like you have no clue what you're doing. And for me, being able to work was like a salvation because it gave me an opportunity every day to do something I knew I could do really well.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember meeting a mother who told me that her baby slept for 4 hours in the morning and 4 hours in the afternoon and slept all night. I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
Like, it was so foreign.
Yeah. I know. I had friends who would ask to meet up and go out, and I was like, I cannot leave the house. Like, I just felt so debilitated.
Was it at that point still just you and Chris running the business, or did you have other people in your business?
When she was born, we had one full-time employee and a contractor, and then sorry, a handful of contractors, some working on recipes, and then one working on support, I believe. So we did have help with the business, which thank goodness we had that to keep it going because we had our hands full.
When did Chris come into the business full time? Same time as you?
No, he had a monetary number that he wanted the business to hit before he came full time. So he worked at his full time job probably like a year longer than I did before he joined me full time. So that was exciting because he was waiting to hit that moment. I remember the day he said to me, "It's time for me to leave." And looking back, I can't, it was pre kids. So we
Right.
had nothing else to do but work on the business. So he'd go to work all day, 9 to 5, then come home and work all night on the web app.
And so just so everyone's clear, because I think one of the most powerful assets you had was that your developer was in-house. Because
Yes.
it's the most expensive and it's the easiest way to be taken for a ride when you're developing a tech-based, because developers speak their own language and they're
Yeah.
all their own. They've got every single one I've ever worked with has its own brand of quirk that I kind of have to navigate and figure out their language with their love
They're
languages.
weirdos. Those engineers are weirdos.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, well, you said it. I mean, I love the developers I've had, most of them I love, and there's a few that were awful and really, I don't want to say took advantage, but was such a massive expense and I never got the results that were first promised.
Yeah. A lot of people come to me and they're like, "How would you do this if you didn't have a software engineer as a husband?" And I don't have an answer for that because
Yeah.
we were really lucky that we both between us had the skill sets that we needed to run the entire
Yeah.
business
I mean,
from
I don't think it's luck. I think you had the assets that you had and the skills you had, and you were smart enough to apply them in a way that built a beautiful business. I don't believe in luck. I think
yeah.
it's tuning in and aligning yourselves with what's possible and having the right thing at the right time, which again, I don't think it's luck. I think it's reading the market and paying attention.
Yeah. Well said, because I read a quote the other day that was like, the harder I worked, the luckier I got.
Right. Exactly.
And that's exactly it. We worked so hard. And
You worked.
I think if a lot of people know, as you know, how much work it does take, they wouldn't want to do it.
No. I mean, I think about it and we're going to get to where you landed, but if I had to start over, I would be able to, but it would be that much more terrifying knowing what it took and what it takes to build something substantial.
Yeah, I think being naive was our biggest superpower, that we
Yeah.
had no idea. Like, it was just like, yeah, let's do that. That sounds like fun. This will be a fun little way to spend our time. But now, as we think about what's next, knowing everything we know, I'm not sure we're interested in doing it again.
Something I really valued in what you created, and I was a huge cheerleader, not just because of your association with having graduated from my program, but I always value people and women who work really professionally in the natural health field, because there aren't a lot. It can get very flaky, but everything you put out was really, really strong. And something that inspired me is you had a team member who almost became the face of the business, creating cooking videos and creating content and hosting events. I was like, that's what I need. I need someone else who can do this so it doesn't have to be me all the time.
Yeah. And that was really important to us from day one, and something my husband consistently reminded me of, for me not to become the face of the company, because we felt really strongly about it being able to stand alone as a
Yeah.
brand, that Clean Life, and not be me. And that's why we rotated our amazing staff into the spotlight so that they could get their chance to shine, teach what they knew. And we also got to a point where we couldn't do the things that our customers were asking for. Like, the diets got so complex. like low FODMAP and antihistamine and things like that. That was way over my head. And while I could have sat there and tried to figure it out, we got to a point where we had to hire professional. We hired a holistic nutritionist and a dietitian to help us ensure that everything remained evidence based, because that was something important to me as a nurse too, that I wanted to stand behind.
So you're building out this platform. You've got a team with it. And you kept the team very lean as
Mhm.
well. Because I did reach out to you being like, buy this, like take the Academy of Culinary Nutrition. And something you said very clearly is you don't want to manage a big team.
Yeah.
So what were your areas of brilliance within your company that you took on so that you could keep a really lean team?
So I think what helped us keep it small is I continued to be the salesperson. I look back and I think that was the most important skill I learned early on, is how to sell that clean life. So we would often do webinars in front of like a big audience of health and wellness professionals, and we'd teach what we knew and something that was valuable to them. And then we would show them how to use that clean life to accomplish that. And that was kind of our secret sauce, and how we just kept tapping into more and more audiences. And eventually I trained our employees on how to do that and how to structure like a pitch. And then I eventually brought on somebody to do our customer support in maybe like 2018. Eventually I got to a point where I was just like such a curmudgeon on support. And I would get so angry. I was like, you don't know. Like, have you reset your computer? Oh my God. And I get so mad. So like Chris is like, you need to hand this off. So customer support, we handed off. Eventually, like I did all the recipes at the beginning too. So we hired a really great team of recipe developers to take that over, all on contract. So they would just have so many hours every month that we could continuously put new recipes into the application. But yeah, I would say sales and marketing were my kind of zone of genius, where I was able to help the business the most. And as we kind of spoke to earlier with Chris as an engineer, like that helped the technical side of things. But we never felt like we needed to grow a big team. Like we had the skill set between by the time we sold it, we had four of us full time. And I couldn't have seen where anybody else would have kind of fit in or helped add to that. I just, the more people you have, the more people problems you have. And that was always the hardest part of running a business for me, because I would internalize our people problems, and I took it so seriously, like how happy our employees were. I always, like if I felt like they were unhappy, it would just eat me up. That's what kept me up at night. So I always knew like a big team, was not for me.
And at what point were you thinking about selling it? Like, I guess the first question is, did you take on outside investment to build this?
Yeah, no, we didn't. We built it purely with our own time. We were profitable from day one, the day we launched the application. I feel like we had 100 people sign up on the first day. So we never had to spend a dime of our own money. It was just our time that we invested into it. And with like our customers, I'd say we were customer funded, because with their money, we were able to like scale like the technology and hire employees. So we didn't take on any investment. We were bootstrapped and profitable from day one. And we grew. Like I mentioned at the top of this, we kind of rode this wave of SaaS, or software as a service, where, subscriptions were everybody's dream. You would add more customers, and as long as you weren't losing customers, you could keep growing your annual recurring revenue. You just had to keep adding new customers. And we rode that wave from when we launched in 2015 to probably about 2021. So we had a good run of like 6 years where we were super profitable. At our peak, we only had 4 full-time employees, and our profit margins were like 93% or something like that. So it was really a dream business.
Yeah.
But we got to a point, and after I had my second baby in 2021, we
And
just hit
you had a serious medical emergency.
I did. I got sepsis after I had my second, which was terrible. I ended up in the hospital for 3 weeks after I had her, and it was very traumatizing. I was quite sick. I had 2 nephrostomy tubes, one after the other. That's how I ended up getting sepsis. My right kidney closed. And that was just like a terrible time trying to, we had this business that was still kind of on the app. Our first baby was still a baby. And then I got sick, and thank goodness for my parents who jumped in to help us, but it was a crazy time.
Yeah. And it was the middle of the COVID craziness
Yes.
too.
Yeah. I was like when our second was born, I was in the hospital and I got a fever. And I remember them putting, like, everybody left the room because they were like, oh, like, we cannot touch her until, we've ruled out COVID, like, get a whatever the rapid COVID test was. And they were putting ice bags on me to try to bring my fever down. And my husband was so upset and he was like, what is this? What is going on? It was such a wild time looking back and to be in the healthcare system at that time. And then when I got sepsis, I was totally alone. I was pumping. My husband would have to come to the hospital and pick up the milk every day and take it back to our daughter. And yeah, when I wouldn't want to go back to that time, it was awful.
No, no, no. Okay. So you've got now the newborn.
Mhm.
2021 the peak?
2021 was kind of, yeah, the peak. And right after, about 2 months after I had our second baby, got really sick, I kind of got my footing back and I came back into the business and it just had kind of stalled.
Mm.
We still had, our great annual recurring revenue. So we still had money coming in the door, but it wasn't growing anymore. And for the first few months, it was like, okay, well, we've both been distracted. We've been away from the business. Like, let's, try to get things back on track. And then a year passed and we were still in that same position, same ARR. We were losing customers the same amount as we were bringing on. So we were just kind of floating. It wasn't as fun anymore. Like,
Right. Yeah,
nobody,
the going up the roller coaster is super fun.
yeah, it was so fun. And then it stopped and it became harder and it felt like we were kind of pushing a boulder up a hill. And I want to be clear, like, the business was still super healthy and very profitable and it was a great little business, but we just, like, the things we were doing weren't working anymore and the volume of customers we were getting, just wasn't what it used to be. And we felt like there was a shift happening in the space, like in the software space and in the health and wellness space. And we felt it. And I remember that summer after we had our second baby, Chris and I kind of sat down and we're like, what do we need to do to get through this? And we launched a new feature that we thought could help. It didn't. We kept doing a lot of the same things that we did that helped us grow in the past, and they weren't working anymore. So we did that for 2 years, just kept trying to push through it. And I will never forget the moment where I just turned to Chris and I just said, it's time. Like, I don't think we can keep growing this business with this team. I don't care to grow a bigger team. I don't have the energy to put in what I think needs to be put into this to keep growing it and make those pivots with the business that I think need to be made. Let's sell. And he just is like, okay, no, no argument whatsoever. And I thought, like, I was having a bit of an emotional break and that he was like, let's
Yeah.
talk about this tomorrow. But he was like, okay. And we
You
got to work, like, right away.
I just want to point out, because I think this is something missed over a lot, is that when a woman family is created, has babies, there's a lot around, how hard the first year is. But the first year problems, health aside, if you have a healthy baby and no surprises or unexpected things, outside the ordinary, their problems, I think, are fairly simple to solve. But I think that when they get older, like 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, they require a tremendous amount of a different kind of energy. And the
Mm-hmm.
problems are not as easy to solve. You can't just hire someone to hold your baby lovingly, which you
Yep.
can do with an infant, and it's
Mm-hmm.
real. And I felt it too. And the first 6 months were hard, but it was like year 2, year 3 of my child's life was really when I was, like, out of juice
Yeah.
entirely.
Yeah. I read somewhere parenting is not, or parent is not a noun, it's a verb.
Yeah.
And I think that's so true. And that's when it kind of hits you around that age of 3 to 4 to 5 is when your child is, misbehaving or isn't doing something, like that reflects on you as a parent. And it takes so much time and energy to be a great parent and to raise healthy, happy, intelligent
Yeah.
children who can think critically. You just can't outsource that. And that's on you.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said to your husband, I'm done. We're done. Let's sell. And he's
We're
like,
done
great,
here.
let's do that.
Yeah. So we just started. I got really into a podcast called Built to Sell. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No, I think there's a book. Is there? I think there's a
There was a
book.
book. Yeah.
Yeah, I have the book. I bought the
Um,
book. I read the book. I'm like, I don't want to do any of this.
yeah. I also read the book, and it kind of outlines different paths, like hire an investment banker to help you run a process to sell the business.
Boo.
Yeah. And so us being the naive couple we are, we're just like, we're going to go at this alone. We're not going to hire anybody. We're going to keep every dime that we sell this for. We're not giving, because it was like up to 15% or something like that,
Yeah.
that you were going to have to pay somebody to sell it for you and, drum up the interest. So we sat down and we made a list of, I think, like maybe 20 companies that might be like we wanted it to be a strategic acquisition. And I started reaching out. I got a hold of people on LinkedIn, and, some people I talked to I had been connected with, started having a lot of conversations. And that was in October 2022 when I said that to Chris. And probably about 2 months later, we had 2 offers.
Mm-hmm.
So it was messy. It wasn't pretty. The process was not beautiful at all, but we drummed up that interest
Yeah.
ourselves, and we stumbled through those conversations ourselves, and we had 2 offers, which was really exciting. And that's
Yeah.
like the dream of what you want.
So you basically put together, I guess, like a pitch deck of what the offer was, what you were asking for, what they'd get.
No, actually,
Oh,
we put together like a pitch deck that like outlined the problem we were trying to solve, the business, the technology, the staff, high level numbers, like a snapshot of what the business was doing and how it kind of worked. And then we didn't know what the business was worth. So we kept it very vague. And, like you're in these conversations and they're trying to like, the people on the other side are trying to get a sense of what you think it's worth, but
yes.
you're trying to keep your mouth shut because you don't really know and
Yeah.
nobody wants to say anything. So we went through a lot of song and dance.
It's like that's how you play the game on Facebook Marketplace, but this is like next level. Like, or
Exactly.
best offer. I'm like, okay, well, you want
Yeah.
this, but I'll like, you don't want
And
to
then
go too high.
yeah. And then they start super low and you're like offended. You're like, no, never. Like, what do you think this is? And that's how it went. Like we started off low, and I think we ended up negotiating like double what the original offer was. But like that obviously comes at a cost as
Yeah.
well. So when we decided to sell, we knew we were not employees. Both of us are very much entrepreneurial.
Meaning that you weren't going to sell the company and then work for whoever bought you for a period of time.
Exactly. Yeah. We just knew that wouldn't work for us. We said, like, we want this to be a clean exit. We want to make sure our people are well taken care of and their jobs are guaranteed. But for us, like, it is time to move on. Like, the reason why we're selling is because we've taken this business as far as we can take it on our own. We know what it's going to take to move it even further, and we're just not ready to be there. So originally we said, like, we weren't going to stay on, but the way it kind of ended up is, in order to get the full value for the business, the deal was like we had to stay for 2 years, and the deal we did end up taking. And looking back, I'm still not sure how that happened. It was because we wanted to get the full value for the business. It's like it was either half or, this full amount if we stayed on for 2 years. And we thought, 2 years will go by pretty quickly. And at the start, I was excited. Like, I was like, I get to see like what it is going to take. Like, this is going to be a cool learning experience, because I was at the end of what I knew how to do with it. And I was like, this is really exciting to go on and see and learn and be a part of like this next stage of it. So yeah, that's how I kind of justified it in my head.
How long did the 2 years feel once you were in it?
Now that I'm a year out, it doesn't feel so long.
Right.
But when I was in it, it was really hard. I think the game we were playing changed. So we went from being a business that was completely bootstrapped, no investors, nobody's input. We made all the decisions. We called all the shots. When something wasn't working, it was like, if we had a bad month, it was like, oh, well, we'll try to do better next month. That
Yeah.
sucks. And nobody was really there we were the
Yeah.
hardest ones on ourselves.
Right.
And the business who ended up purchasing us had investment from private equity. And I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
really understand what that meant. And I wish I would have taken a bit more time to understand that game and what playing that game means, because it was night and day from the
Yeah.
game we were playing. And it was very difficult to go from being bootstrap, owning 100% of our company, to operating within a bigger company that had targets and quarters and
Did
all
you
these things.
have metrics that you needed to hit in those 2 years to get the full payout?
The first year, yes, we had a number that we had to hit in order to get our first earnout. And then the second earnout came at the end of 2 years, but there was no target tied. So we had to perform that
Right.
first year. And that was really stressful
Did
to
you hit it?
we didn't end up hitting it, but we ended up kind of making another deal around it, because what happened is the other business needed my attention more. So I was kind of pulled away from working on our business and growing it and more into the bigger picture of things.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah.
My husband, Josh, Josh,
Mhm.
he was a client of both. He loved that clean life. It made his life so much easier.
Mm.
And he was a client of the acquirer. But from the outside, we were like, wow, this is amazing. Like two amazing Canadian companies coming together. Like it just made so much sense.
Yeah.
2 years, so you're a year out now. Do you have any relationship with them? No.
Nope. And that's okay. It was by the end of those 2 years, it was time to move on. And it really forced me to detach
Yeah.
from what I called my baby. Like,
Yeah.
we spent so many years building that product and it becomes a part of you.
Yeah.
And I had to do a lot of work to detach from that,
Yeah.
being a part of me. And, at the end of the day, it's a product. It's not
Yes.
a living thing, even though it felt like it at the time as we were building it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had to kind of like disassociate.
Yeah. I think when you're building a business and it's a small business and like you're putting 95% of your waking energy and thoughts into that business, it becomes a living entity in a lot of ways. Like it inhales, it exhales, it serves people. It's your passion and your purpose and all of that is so real and valid. I know I had a challenge walking away from something that didn't even end up in someone else's hands.
Hmm.
It's still like
Yeah.
this living entity. It's like in the cupboard that I could open the cupboard and pull it out any point. But there is a detachment you need to make from that identity of who you were, who wanted it and wanted to build and create it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think in hindsight, I should have done a lot more work on that going into it, because I think where it kind of fell apart for me is when we made the decision to stay on for those 2 years, I walked into it like I was still the founder, and I will always be the founder of that clean
Yes.
life, but I was not a founder anymore, and I just couldn't care the same way. Like I operate, like I just cared so much,
Yeah.
and I couldn't care that much. Like it wasn't working for me to care that much anymore because I just wasn't in charge
Yeah.
anymore. So it really created, some friction.
Do you ever creep it like an ex? Like go on and be like, what are they doing? I can't believe that's what they're doing with this.
Yeah, I wish I could sit here and be like, no, I never do that. Part of me wants to say that I don't look, but I look. I go on the
Yeah.
website. I poke around, see what they're charging for it and what's going on. All of our team has left now as well. So,
Of their own
um,
accord.
yeah. So I think that's really good as well, because I don't go asking questions anymore.
Right.
But yeah, I'm still curious and to see like kind of what they're doing and how it's going.
Yeah.
I think that's only like human nature.
Is it still under that clean life?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a good relationship with your former team members that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the original team from That Clean Life, couldn't be more thankful for them all. They were all awesome. I met a lot of people within the new company as well that, will be lifelong friends. And I managed a bigger team when I went into the other company. And that was the best part of it, was just getting to meet everybody, and we had a lot of fun. Like, one of my values is having fun as a business. So I said, the moment we're not having fun, like, I'm not doing this anymore. So it was really great to meet people who loved their jobs and loved having fun in their jobs. That was definitely the best part, and I miss them all the time.
Mhm. Yeah. I think I too, my former team, it's been 3 years now. We still meet once a month.
Oh, that's so
We
nice.
have like our own mastermind, and I tried to help everyone find great roles, and some did, and some found roles with, the kind of entrepreneurs that aren't really in their integrity. It's hard, but yeah, those relationships are so sweet and important. I mean, they're important to me. And I think that when you have people who want to help build your vision, there's a huge amount of trust in there too.
Yeah, and it's so hard to find.
It's
Like, it's so hard to find people who care about building it as much as you do. And it's really admirable when they don't have as much skin in the game as you do, but they still want to help you
yeah,
grow. And when we started out, I think the person you were alluding to at the beginning was Ashley Sauvé,
yeah.
who's now Ashley Wilkin, who has gone on to create an amazing platform of her own, an amazing practice. And then there was Tabitha, who did our customer support start
Oh,
and kind of
right.
grew into like a bigger role. And Avita as well, who was our first registered dietitian. And all three of those people just cared so much. And I held on to them because, it was impossible
Yeah.
to find people who cared that much. So we were really lucky that way.
The deal went through. You were free. At what point did you decide you were leaving Toronto?
So yeah, we started to come up on the end of that 2 years. And it was funny because at about the 1 year in mark, I was like drinking the Kool-Aid, and I was like, I want to be a part of this. And my husband was like, I do not. And we were, it was causing a lot of friction in our relationship. I'd say like those 2 years were really hard on us too, as we kind of like got absorbed into this new world and had different opinions on like how our roles should be. And I was really into it for a little bit, and I thought I was going to stay on. I was really excited about where the business was going. And then with some time, I kind of came around. I was like, oh yeah, I'm ready to move on too. So we knew at the end of like when that 2 years was up, when we were free to go, we were going. And it was probably like 6 months before that 2 years was up. And we were looking to relocate. Like, we knew we wanted to move because we just had so many memories associated with the house. And this might sound really weird, but we just couldn't imagine, like, on the first day that we're done, this thing that we've worked 10 years to do, we just couldn't imagine just waking up in the same place and walking downstairs. Like, I think I would have just gone to the office, opened my laptop, like looked at an empty screen. Like, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. So we knew we needed to make a change. And we were looking in Toronto, more on the outskirts of Toronto. And then my brother ended up, he was living in Montreal and decided to come back to Ontario, and he found a property and purchased it. And we were looking at that, and we're like, that's really nice. That's a lot of space. And when we were looking at his, there was like suggested properties below, and we saw this property that we're at now. And we took a look at it, and it checked so many boxes, and we're like, let's go see that tomorrow. So we went and we saw it, and we were like, there's something really exciting about moving out to the country, having a lot of land, kind of really starting fresh, a different kind of lifestyle. So we sat on it for a while, and we didn't really feel any sort of sense of urgency about it. And then we got a call on Halloween night, and from our real estate agent, and she said, there's an offer in on that house. So if you guys want it, like, you have to make the offer tonight before 9 p.m.
Oh my God.
And we were like, we didn't think anybody would put in an offer on it, because properties like this that are big and kind of sit for a while. So it was like Halloween night, and the kids wanted to go out trick-or-treating, and we were like, oh my gosh, we have to make a decision now. We were really worried about their school. Yeah, we saw you guys every
We
morning on
see
the
you
way to
every
school.
morning.
We loved their school.
Yeah. We weren't
we
the kids weren't at the same school, just to clarify, but we would we'd always be biking and we'd see you, like you were turning off to go to your school and we were going to ours.
Yeah, we were on the same route, and I always envied you because your kid was old enough to bike. And we had one going to that school for a bit, and I could pull them in the bike trailer. But when there was two of them, there was like no way I was
Big
getting
hill.
up those hills in Hyde Park. And it always hurt my ego a little bit driving by you guys because I was like, no, we should be biking too. But anyways, just needed to clarify. That's why I wasn't biking.
Well, I'll clarify. You've never saw me biking alone with our child because I couldn't tow him. Like he's on one of those bike tows. So Josh would pull him. I just came for the company.
Yeah. That's fair. I would have to get off the bike and walk up those big hills in Hyde Park with the...
We did test out e-bikes because I'm like, well, if we got an e-bike, then I could take him. And I promptly drove like full speed into the bushes. I was like, I can't ride one of these things.
I feel like that would happen to me too. And I always am like, why like have an e-bike when you can pedal and you know, get exercise? That's the thing that always bothered me about e-bikes, which is why
I agree fully. I just thought it was the only way I could pull like a 50-pound kid behind me. But
that's
anyway, fair. I was not road safe, so
yeah,
I didn't pass the test.
So we were worried about the moving schools. Like that's hard to do to children, especially our oldest was 5 and had her little group of girlfriends and great school, great teachers. We had a great little community in Roncy. And we were like, do we want to do this? Like, is this going to be better for us? It was a big decision. And we had to make the decision really quick. And I said, I think if we don't put an offer in on this place, we're going to regret it. Like, I don't think another place like this is going to come up that has all the things that we're looking for. So we put in an offer, we got it. And it was a long closing. So the way it worked out is the kids finished school. And then when they were done school, we packed up that day and we left the city.
Wow. So it's been a year. Has it been 2 years or 1 year?
1 year in June. So not quite a year yet.
Oh, it was only 1 year. So you went all in on your little, not even little, like you have a farm.
Yeah. We're on 10 acres.
Yeah.
And we've got last year we had 6 garden beds in an orchard. This year we have 14 garden beds and we've just added some new fruit trees to our orchard. And we have a tractor. We learned how to blow snow this winter. We have a ton of grass that takes us about 8 hours every week to cut. And it's become our full-time job just maintaining this property, which feels silly to say, but also such a privilege. We back onto a conservation that's protected land. So we kind of feel like we're an extension of that and we get to protect and take care of this land. And yeah, it just feels right now at this point in our lives.
With the sale, do you have to work ever again in your life?
If we manage things wisely, probably not, no.
Is Chris happy not working on his computer or does he miss it?
I asked him the other day, I said, do you miss coding? And he said, yeah. But he has an idea for something like another product, like just something personal that he wants to build and use for us and our family. So he has little passion projects like that. The land keeps us busy. Like as soon as spring hits, we have so much work to do around here. I have felt myself getting antsier lately. I think like at the end of March, I, really felt, okay, ready for spring, ready to get back outside. It was weird having a full winter with
I was
like
going to ask,
work.
How was the full winter? So you had a full winter in the country, no work to do. There's not a lot of, if the summer and fall keep you super busy growing and preserving, what did fill your time?
I got really involved with the kids' school, which took up some of my time. I joined a book club my sister-in-law started, which was fun. I learned how to bake bread, sourdough, and, kind of branched out from there and did focaccia. And it was quiet. And, saying out loud to friends kind of felt silly sometimes. They're like, what do you do all day? We don't have any help out here. So it's a big place. So we do all the yard work ourselves. I clean myself. And, when I say it out loud, sometimes it doesn't feel like enough, like compared to what I was doing and like the life I was living in the city. And I always have to remind myself, like, this is enough. This is exactly where you're supposed to be. I take my kids to school every day. I pick them up every day. I read a book with my daughter every day. I take them to all their activities. Me or my husband, we're there for them every step of the way, which is something we wouldn't have been able to do. We would have had to say no to a lot of things. They don't miss any birthday parties. We're very present for them. And that's my job right now,
Yeah.
is just to be a present parent, to raise good children, to take care of this land. And I'm coming to terms with that being enough.
Hmm. I went through it and I started to say, like, if it's joyful, it's enough and that's
Hmm.
it. And the reality is when, we take our son to school, we pick him up, it's a very similar situation. We're both available. And again, taking care of the home, groceries, laundry.
Hmm.
I wonder how I ever did as much as I did.
Same.
I have no idea. Because right now, you end up with like maybe 4.5 hours in the day. Like we work out every day too after we drop them off. I'm like, what? When did I actually accomplish what I did?
I'm the exact same. I'm like, how did I ever, like, it feels like we have no time in the day still. I'm like, how did I work full time? How did that happen? I can't imagine, kind of going back to that and trying to fit everything we're doing. Mind you, we have filled a lot of time with other things. Like, we didn't have 10 acres to take care of in
Yeah.
Toronto. The kids weren't in as many activities. We have filled our time in different ways, but ways that I'd argue are more meaningful. And the biggest surprise to me is just now that I don't have that like endless, emails coming in and Slack coming in and everything, just the way I'm able to be a lot more present for my kids and myself. And like the things I notice, that's been one of the biggest amazing things to me, is just like noticing them
Yeah.
running across the lawn and laughing, like being able to like take a moment and take that in. Whereas before, my mind would have been somewhere else. I would have been like, I need to go in and respond to this email. Tomorrow I have this webinar. This person's mad. They want to raise, like, I have so much less noise in my brain now. And to me, like, that's, that's really awesome.
Yeah. I relate to that entirely. And I remember there'd be days when my son's nanny or babysitter couldn't come and I'd unexpectedly be home for a half day. And I would tell myself, you really should be enjoying this. Like, you
Mhm.
really should be, because this doesn't last forever. And this is bonus time you just got today. And also, my to-do list would be circulating in my brain. And I'd be like, shh, not now. But it's very difficult.
Yeah.
So when I first reached out to you, you were like, I'm not ready. Like, I'm still processing this.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're wearing this life fully now?
I'm getting there. I think when we sold, I thought that was the end.
Mhm.
Like when the deal closed, and that was not the end at all, because we still had 2 years. And I was expecting kind of like, I don't know, confetti to go off and,
It's always so anticlimactic,
it was
anything like that.
the most anticlimactic thing ever. Like, I remember walking in and we had brought the 2 of them home from school, and I was like, the wire hit. And Chris is mad because he got put on a project right away and had like a 3-week deadline. He was so stressed out. He was like in a different world. I was just like trying to like be like, this is great. And my kids are like having a meltdown. We had no dinner. We had to like order takeout that night. And I ended up like taking one, they had to be separated because they were fighting. And I like ended up taking one down the street to a park and just standing there, the 2 of us, like, and I was like, this is not what I pictured. Like, this is not how I thought it would be. And it didn't get any better. Like, we did it as best we could. We made a lot of mistakes. Like, we should have asked a lot of more questions going into that. So like those 2 years were pretty rocky for us, and totally taking ownership of that, because we should have asked more questions about what it was going to look like and the game we were playing. So I
Yeah.
came out of those 2 years of feeling a bit salty, but now that I've had some time to put things into perspective, I realize how lucky we were and we are,
Yeah.
to have built what we built, and to have sold it, and to have like what we have now. We're so fortunate.
Yeah.
So perspective is everything. When you're in the middle of things, emotions run high. And I'm glad that part's behind me. But I feel like the dust is kind of finally settling. And I'm very thankful. And, when we walked away from it all, I heard a quote that was like, the point of winning the game is to stop playing the game.
I like that.
Yeah. And that's exactly how I feel looking back
Yeah.
is we won the game and it was time to stop playing.
Yeah. Yeah. I dragged on for a year longer than I knew in my heart it was time. I'm glad that I left when I did because AI would have destroyed what I'd built
Yeah. Yeah. That's
fully.
where we were there too. And I think it's only natural you're on this treadmill and you just want to keep running and keep trying to figure it out and fit the puzzle pieces together. I think that's human nature, but it takes a lot of guts to walk away and to try something new. And
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you spend 10 years solving problems for one thing, it's really hard to just be like, no, you don't have to fix that. You don't have to solve it. You don't have to test that. You don't have to try it. It doesn't matter anymore.
yeah, it doesn't matter anymore. And it's so weird. Like still I wake up and have dreams that I'm should be working on this. And I'm like, how are we going to fix this?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't my life anymore. I don't have
Yeah.
to think about this anymore.
It's
And I'm
interesting.
happy.
Yeah. I mean, I had 3 years up until now where I just kept sort of doing the same thing with different approaches
Mm-hmm.
until I was like, I don't want to do any of this anymore. And what does that then look like? I got to do it in stages. And I don't know if that was better or worse. I drag on, but I think for both of us, there's such value in being able to call it a day when it's time,
Yeah.
however that ends up looking.
Yeah. And like, thank you for being so honest and open about your journey because it's helped me a lot. Like, I can read your newsletters every week or every so often when you send them, and you catch yourself a lot, like falling back into old patterns and trying to make things
Yeah.
something. And then you get into them and you're like, nope, that's not what I want to be doing. And I've been the same, like even just sharing things on Instagram and Substack out of old habits of just like sharing your life and trying to turn it into a business when it doesn't
Right.
need to be that is something that I've had to get a lot more comfortable with and a lot more aware of.
Yeah. I'm navigating this now because I've started publicly sharing my art, which I was never going to do. But the reality is that I had no more room on my walls and I wanted to buy more wool. So what do I do with all these weavings? But it's really difficult when your brain is tuned that way, especially when it's a lifestyle business and everything you're kind of doing is, quote unquote on brand with
Yeah.
what you built. Do you have any desire at this point, do you think, to do something else, like maybe on a smaller scale? Or do you feel fully fulfilled? Which there's no right or wrong answer.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe on a smaller scale, we would do something again. This winter, I wrote a children's book. And that's kind of sitting in the ether, just trying to figure out what the next steps there are. So there's like that kind of area I'm exploring. But right now, like I feel like I'd be forcing something like
Yeah.
in a business. That's what I like about the book is like the book doesn't feel like I think it's kind of like the art for you. Like I love to write. I love to like create things. There's something about creating like a physical product that you could actually hold in your hands. There's something special about that after creating software. But to create anything like what we did before, not much desire and just not much energy for that left in me at this point in time.
Yeah.
Never say never, I guess.
Yeah. It's difficult. And I really appreciate you being open to chat with me. And it's been difficult to gently persuade and nudge the women I know during this phase because you're like, what do I have to say? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
But that's exactly where the value is because I believe, especially, with all of us in our 40s, and that's mostly who listens, 40s into 50s, it's a phase of reimagining what life will be in this next stage. And I suspect that most don't get to the other end of the tunnel before they turn back. Because
Yeah.
being in the liminal and being in the unknown, that includes your own identity, is foreign, because I think up till now we've, a lot of people just kind of follow the script. Like, you go to school, you get a job, or you start a business, you find a partner,
Have
have the
kids.
kids,
Yeah.
and like, okay, now who am I?
Yep.
And it's a difficult question to answer. And I think what you
Yeah. And
shared has a
and
lot
it's
of value.
hard changing your identity. Like,
Yes.
I think that has been something I've been struggling with over the last year is like, if I am not the co-founder of That Clean Life, if I'm not a business owner, if I'm not a manager or a boss, without all these people calling on me and needing me to answer questions and help them move their work along, like, who am I? And what do I bring to this world? It's a tough question. And I think so many people get stuck and don't, they feel like something's wrong or off, but they don't have the strength or maybe even the courage to reinvent themselves
Hmm.
and go through that.
Or don't have the examples of people who've
Mhm.
done it, because I most go into it, hide away and reemerge as something totally new and successful in a different way. And what if success is just following the whispers of your heart and doing the things day to day, moment by moment, that really fill your heart and bring you joy and fulfillment? And
Yeah.
in the age of intelligence, ancient or artificial, it's sort of these soft skills of parenting and nurturing and creating and being creative that I'm seeing. Maybe it's just, because I'm following a bunch of weavers now, but that I'm seeing this emergence of the value in the slowness, and it's the antidote.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and that's why I was really excited. That's why I came back around after I said, "No, I'm not ready to talk yet." I said, "I am ready to talk," because I I'm also finding it hard to connect with people and, like, as you change and as you evolve, some friendships that served you, might not no longer serve you, and you've become a different person, and they might not really understand where you're going. And it's been lonely too. So
yeah.
that's why I was excited to chat with you today because I knew you were going through it and you've talked to so many brave women who are also going through it. And yeah.
Yeah. That you brought up the relationships, which is really interesting. And I often ask almost everyone about losing relationships, because it's something that I have been challenged with forever in every iteration of who I've been. And it's part of it. And ultimately you do end up finding the people who resonate with where you are now. And I've
Mhm.
also experienced a new wave of loss when I'm no longer of value to people, where I'm no longer a founder with influence and an entrepreneur. Well, even though you always are, it's like you can't shake it.
Yep.
But yeah, that's part of the reinvention. And I also think, though, that you will find the people that really see the wisdom in the choices that have been made, and those people are also resonating at a different level than, say, the active entrepreneurs, and not in a better or worse way. It's just
Yeah.
what's there.
Everybody's kind of on their own path and you kind of have to find people who are resonating at the same frequency.
Yeah. Anyway, well, if you still lived in Roncy, we could go for a tea.
I know. I left too soon.
No, no. So my last question, when you bought the farmhouse, were you like, let's go and try it out, or were you went all in?
I'd say we went all in. Yeah, we were just like, "This is our life now." We all got
Yeah,
rubber boots and we dove head first.
that's
And it
great.
was it was, a really great distraction. Like, I don't think we realized how much work it was going to be. Like, we were like, "Look at this beautiful land," like, not thinking it would take 6 hours a week to cut the grass. Like, I didn't think about the grass once, until we got here and we had to cut it. So it's almost like a gift from the universe to have something that takes up so much of your time
Mhm.
to keep you away from all the things that we probably would have dove into or committed to or tried to busy ourselves with. Instead, we're kind of like immersed in nature. We spend all day outside. Our calendars are empty. Uh, and it's very freeing and it feels very, very right. Like we're right where we need to be.
That's amazing. I think that's all we can ask,
Yeah.
to be where our feet are and do a little dance while we're there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. This was such a joy.
Yeah. Thank you for having me and thank you for being patient.
Always. Well, not always, but in this case, I was.
Oh, same.
Thank you, as always, for listening through to the end. Abigail is keeping a Substack that is great, and you can find a link to it in our show notes. Go to courageouspivot.com and select this episode for all of the details. As well, when you're over there, opt in for my brand new Heart Reset program. It's totally free, absolutely, totally, unconditionally free with no catches. And the whole idea around this free program is to help you learn a very simple strategy to get into coherence, a state of harmony, and be able to hear the whispers in your own heart and understand how that is the foundation for courage, for informed and powerful decision making within your own life, and how you really can make courageous pivots of your own without actually needing that much courage, because it's just what has to be done. Thank you as always for listening, and we will connect again in the next episode. Have a beautiful rest of your day.